What's going on, guys? This is Ethan, the Games Adjuster, and today we are talking about the 2 to 4 player city building game of Quadropolis. So Quadropolis, this is published by Days of Wonder, designed by Francois Gandon, and it's a really cool little city building puzzle game. So let me first show you how it plays, and we'll come back here with some final thoughts. I am going to show you one of the, I think the only expansion that it has in the overview, as well as the expert mode as opposed to the classic mode. So here we go. Let's show you the game and we'll come back here with those final thoughts. All right, here we go. I've got an expert game of Quadropolis set up here. Unlike most videos, I'm going to show you the expert mode. I feel like that's really the only way to play it. It's not that much more than the basic mode. And even as a welcoming or gateway experience, I think expert is just fine. So to begin the game, players will each be given one of these sheets here that they're going to be forming their city in. In the expert mode, none of these tokens here that will point to the city tiles are going to be belonging to a player. In the basic game, these are color coded. Every player has one for each number except for the number 5. But in this game, they are just in a universal pool here set aside. We'll also have a bin of resources, including these little energy octagons here. Those are kind of cool. And then you'll have these little clear blue translucent meeples. I do have the public works expansion shown here as well, which is these tiles set up here. There's a stack of these here that you will have throughout the game, and you'll get the option to choose these instead of the normal public works in the base game. And I think that kind of fleshes those out a little bit, makes it a little more interesting. So the game is pretty simple. It's a neat little puzzle game. So what you'll be doing when it comes to your turn, and the start player is going to be the person with this green pawn here. On your turn, you're going to take one of the available tokens here, and you will point to an area around this board to take the appropriate numbered tile. So, for example, we might put this tile here to take this shopping center, which is 2 spaces in. There we go. And we can place that now in any of the 4 spaces in my 2 section of my town, or any 2 space on the other 4 sections. So here, this is the 3 area, but there's a 2. Here's the 4 area, but there's a 2. The 1, there's a 2, and then the 5, there's a 2. So any of these spots would be valid. I have to just make sure it is a 2. So I might put that right there. Okay. Some of these, let's say I'd used a 1 maybe, and pointed that here, will give you immediate resources. So if I get this home, I would get 3 meeples, and I'd immediately put those in my area. Now I do not have to place those meeples until the end of the game, but you can use them as you get them. Let's say I'd gotten one of these maybe earlier, put that on it, because you will need to activate these different areas. So this one here, for example, I would need to have a meeple on that for that to score for me. I would need to have these energy tokens on the buildings that require energy for those to score as well. Okay, and so after you've placed your marker and the space that's missing, so in this example it was this one here, we would put the urbanist there, and now the next player, when they would take a tile and point to an area, they cannot choose to point to that same row, and these would stay here, so they could not, for example, use this 5 and point this way, nor could they point to the same column, so they could not use this and go this way. Now they can still get something from that column through other means. So for example, if they put this 4 here, 1, 2, 3, 4, they could still take this office building here and put that in their appropriate space on the building, any 4 section or 4 spot, and then they would move the urbanist to that spot, and then that place would be blocked off. And these tokens will be placed around the board until every player has had 4 turns, and after 4 turns, it is the next player's turn, or the next round. I've gone ahead and set out actually the advanced buildings just for convenience sake, to be honest, but these would not be the ones that would begin the game. These are a little bit more powerful, have a little bit more resources and things like that, and more points really is the big difference. But you will keep placing things. You'll play over 5 rounds in the expert mode. If at some point there's something you don't want, you have to either place it in a valid space and get nothing, or take something and find a place to put it. You can't take something if you have nowhere to put it. And so some turns will happen that you will get nothing if you don't play wisely. Also, I will mention that these public works, again, are an expansion. So what they do is, instead of taking the normal public works here, if you choose to, you can take this normally, place it normally, and then discard one of the available 4. Or instead of taking this, you could discard this and then take one of the 4. And these will give you alternative in-game scoring bonuses. So this one here says if you complete a row or column of these anchored areas, these little ports here or shipyards, then you will get an additional 5 points. And there's a wide variety of these. It gives you a nice little cheat sheet here. So we've got the Capitol, City Hall, City Planning. We've got a maternity ward, gives you a lot of people. They're pretty thematic. A school gets you points for the homes and houses that you have in your city. The meeples per shopping area. There could be many more people there. And that's what those do. Very easy throw in. Pretty cheap expansion if you're going to get the game. We'll talk about that later, but that might be a quick thing to go. And that's the expert mode. Just so you can see the basic game, basically instead of 5 sections, you're going to have only 4 sections. It's only 4 rounds, and then there are basic tiles. These offices, for example, are not in the game. Those are expert tiles. But that's it. So let's kind of talk about what you'll be doing, what the scoring is. So in the expert game, you'll have these homes, which are these ones here. And the way these work is these and the offices, and these are the only ones in the basic game or classic game, can stack on top of each other. So for example, if I had this in the 2 section, and instead of placing another one in a 2 section separately, I wanted to put it on this one, I could, and I would just stack it up. You only need to power the top one, but the more of these you have stacked up, you'll get cascading points. So if I get a stack of 5, that's the max, that's 15 total points. The parks, the factories here, and the monuments are going to give you adjacency bonuses, and monuments actually give you adjacency negative points too. But the parks will give you, for example, if you are next to either homes or offices, the more of those you're next to orthogonally adjacent, you'll get cascading points. The factory, the shipyards will give you 3 points if you're adjacent, offices 4, the shopping center is only 2. The monuments here will give you negative points actually if you're next to a shipyard or a factory. They'll give you nothing for offices, homes, or other monuments, but they will give you points for public works, shopping centers, and the parks. You've got the the shopping centers rather. You can actually store meeples on those. The more meeples, you get cascading more points. And then the public works is a variety kind of bonus. So if you have 1 in each section at least, then you will get 20 points. So let's say you had 7 of them though, that's 1 run of 20 and then another run of 2, which would be 5, as long as they're all in different sections. Okay, and so lastly, we've got 2 more here. So actually second to last, we've got the anchors here. Those will give you points for the continuous straight line that you put them in. So if you get a continuous straight line of 5, you'll get 18 points, 4, 12, 7, 3, etc. And the offices are kind of the most confusing, which is why they're expert, but they're really not that hard. And basically what these do is they don't have to be in a straight line. They just have to be connected adjacent to each other orthogonally. So the largest connected office contiguous thing that you have in your city, you'll look at that number here. So let's say we had 3 connected to each other. And then each one in that 3 segment is going to score based on how high they're stacked. So just like the homes here, they can stack. A stack of 1 that's in a 3 section will get you 2 points. A stack of 5 would get you 20. So a lot of points to be had here if you really focus on that, and that's really kind of how the whole game works, is how you choose to focus your scoring and how you can, looking at the board, puzzle out what pieces you need to use if they're available to get the tile that you want. So there you go. That's pretty much everything here. You will get some negative points at the end if you have leftover meeples and leftover energy. The parks, a couple of them, not all of them. So like this one here doesn't give you anything other than scoring bonuses, but it gives you a person. But this one here doesn't give you an immediate, still scores like normal. But if you want to, you can put your energy on here that cancels that out. So some of them will do that. And even some of these public works here, which is why I really like them, will give you other ways to use your resources. So this one here says you get 1 point per energy you have placed on this building at the end of the game. Very cool. And again, you cannot score anything that does not have the required things here. So this one would need 2 meeples to score. This one here would need a meeple. That one needs energy, energy, meeple, meeple, etc. But there you go. Let's talk about it. It's not that much. So let me go back up top. Here we go. All right, so there you go. That's how to play. Let's talk about it. We'll start with the theme on this one. So I think the theme is pretty cool. It's a city building game. As far as city building games go, they usually are pretty thematic, not necessarily in the way that you build the city, but how you score the city. And this one's no exception. The scoring makes sense as far as adjacency bonuses. Of course, you don't want your parks and next to your factories maybe, but they want to be next to the homes where people can enjoy them. Your monuments don't want to be next to factories or ports. They want to be where the parks and the public works are. So again, people can enjoy them. Shopping centers want to have people in them, so it makes sense to put the meeple. So thematic wise, it's great. Everything makes sense. I couldn't ask for more from a city building game. As far as production goes, I think it's great. Days of Wonder, this is a little bit older of a game, but not too far up the hills of like Five Tribes and Yamatai. And as far as artwork goes, it's very bright. The insert is very functional. It's a little tight, especially when you get the expansion. I'll talk about that in a minute. But the tiles, they all go in these little bins, and they're easy to pull out when you play the game. The tiles for selecting your tile on the main board, as well as the tiles that actually go onto your own city boards, are nice and thick pieces, so that's a nice touch. And the little meeples and the energy tokens are just clear, but they are kind of cool that they're clear and they're, there's nice blue and red. So overall, I think the production is really good. It comes with this score pad, colored score pad, several sheets on there, so you're not really going to run out unless you play this every day. And even still, you could always laminate if you needed to. The expansion does come with a few more tiles, and when you add those in, it's a little bit of a squeeze to fit it all in the box. I think what we had to do was, instead of saving the punch outs, we took maybe a couple out so that the level of the insert dropped a little bit so we could fit them in and fit all the rule books and stuff on top. Not a huge deal, but I'm just mentioning that because it's a little bit tighter of a squeeze, but a good enough insert that I made it work without having to toss the insert. This is one of the more functional and better ones. Rules wise, it's simple. I've kind of taught you the expert game there in the overview. It took 10 minutes. Classic games a little bit faster. But again, I really believe that you could just jump straight into the expert mode and it would be totally fine. Even for a welcoming experience or gateway experience for new players or younger players or less experienced players, I think they could totally get it. You're doing the same thing, you just really throw in the office buildings now. And there's one more round. So maybe if you're trying to save time, you go classic. But other than that, the rule aids are really helpful. The public works give you only 2 classic and 2 experts. I would have maybe liked 4 of each, or I guess I could double side it, but yeah, that's maybe a little minor thing there with the rules. But other than that, yeah, it's Days of Wonder, always really good in production, good rules, well put together. The gameplay is really cool. I really like this puzzle that you're dealing with. So these architects have numbers on them, and you can't go to the same area, row, or column that the previous player went in. And then on top of that, you have to puzzle out, how do I get the tile I want by obeying those rules, but then also, what tile should I use so that I can get it to the right spot in my own city? Because you might have 2 or 3 different ways, to get that one tile that you want, but only one of those ways is going to be most efficient for your city. So that puzzle of not only how to get what you want, but how to get it where you need it, that's really interesting. And I haven't really seen something like that as far as the city building, genre goes. I've played like a suburbia and subdivision. I believe there's just like a row that you can pull from and draft from. And this is really cool that there's this central board that everyone's interacting with and that you have to puzzle out to get. Beyond that, I like the scoring. It's pretty simple, but it's good to be simple because it's perfect for the target audience. This isn't something that hardcore gamers are targeting, I don't believe. This is something that family weight, a little maybe above family weight, um, nice, breezy city building puzzle game that you can get into, and you're not having to worry about what's going on in everybody else's city. You're just worried about your own. And I like that. So gameplay, I think, is definitely a plus. The time on the game is, again, pretty quick. You can play 4 rounds, classic mode. You probably get it done 45 minutes. I think the box says, I don't know, it doesn't say on here, but I would say 45 to 60 minutes is about right. Even in the expert mode, maybe 60 minutes, 75, I guess, if you're really taking your time on it. But it's only 5 rounds. Each player gets 4 turns per round. So that's on a max player game, 4 people, at 16 rounds per round, 16 times 5. I don't know what that is. 110. I don't know what that is. I don't know why that's so hard for me right now. 16 times 5. 80, right? 80. So yeah, it's not that long. Yeah. So play expert is what I'm getting at. Don't try classic; it's not worth it. But if you really want to, save some time, classic. And lastly, variety. This is a little iffy with the expansion, the public works expansion. It adds a little more variety because you're still going to see all the public works every game, but which ones you target is going to change how you end the game score. So in that sense, there's a little more variety. And there's variety in the sense that also you can play expert versus classic, but you're going to see a lot of the same tiles over and over again. The park tile is one design. The base game public works is one design. It's just one gives you 1 point, 2 points, no points. Same thing with the factories and the shopping centers, basically everything. There's a few different designs on the actual homes. Some are like taller stacks or like different color. Maybe there's some things there, but and the monuments maybe be slightly different. Now the public works all have unique designs, schools, hospitals, things like that. So that's cool. But the base game, they're all the same. So minor thing there as far as aesthetic, and it is kind of a major thing when replay because if you really gravitate to one style of scoring, you can pretty much do that every game. And if you find it works well, then you're going to keep doing that. There's not really a whole lot to discover after the first couple plays. So just mentioning that as far as maybe something like a Suburbia where there's a ton of tiles and the order that they come out is very important, going to change your decision. And then there's more going on as far as difficulty and adjacency and all, not only within your own city, with other cities, that kind of adds more of that variety where here it's your own little puzzle. But again, I think that's what they're going for. They're not going for something that's going to have a billion expansions and tons of special powers and things like that. It's a basic puzzle city building game. And so that takes me to my final thoughts. I think this is a really strong puzzle game. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I really like it. It's good for what I'm looking for. I actually don't really like Suburbia, and I know that's probably anathema. I say that, but I just I like that this is simple. I like that it's quick. I like that it's easy. I like that I don't have to worry about the other people. So yeah, there you go. I really like it. Check it out if you're interested. It's a probably pretty cheap game now, maybe 30, 40 bucks. The expansion might be kind of hard to find, but it's worth it if you can find it. And yeah, this is another gem by Days of Wonder. Not a lot of people talk about it. Again, it's a little older, but if you are looking for that lighter city building game and you didn't like Suburbia either, this might be a good one for you. So there you go. That's my thoughts. I've been the Games Adjuster, Ethan Rodriguez. For more information and more content like this, be sure to like, subscribe to the channel. Let me know what your favorite city building game is or what you thought about Quadropolis in the comments below, and we'll catch you on the next one.